Hey, Zane here, and thank you for joining me. So recently I've been putting out some content, some videos, specifically about Bitcoin and why I believe it's so important to be learning about it right now. A, if you care about your financial future, and B, if you haven't already learnt about it. And, I was somebody who dismissed it when I first heard about it in 2013. And some 5 years later, something really caused me to start learning more about it, and I started to do that. And the more I got into it, the more I realised that this was a transformational value system that I just couldn't stop thinking about, learning about, wanting to learn more. And the more I did that, the more I wanted to learn about the history of banking and why Bitcoin was created in the first place and all of the problems that it solves. And so I don't necessarily want to get into all of that side of it today, but I just want to address the main question that comes up a lot. And that is that, people want to know, am I too late to Bitcoin? And the short answer to that is absolutely not. But I kind of want to just elaborate on that a little bit here in this video. This is a question, again, that I get asked, but also that comes up a lot. A lot of the panels and podcasts and interviews and top figures in this space who get interviewed on Fox Business in America and all of those kinds of things. This is a question that is always asked. And having been in Bitcoin since 2018, so coming up to 7 years now, this is a question that I saw when Bitcoin was sitting at $3,000, when it was sitting at $10,000, 15, 20, 30, 60, 100. It just keeps getting asked, and I'm sure it's going to be a question that people are going to ask when Bitcoin is sitting at $500,000 US, and also when it's sitting at $1 million US, which I believe we're going to see in the not too distant future. And so the question is, am I too late to Bitcoin? Am I too late to Bitcoin? Now that is a question that, it kind of depends on your purpose for getting involved. And the thing I always like to sort of point out is that Bitcoin, once you really understand it, you're not going back. You're not going to be selling your Bitcoin to get back into worthless fiat currency. Because once you understand Bitcoin, what you actually realize is that there's no better place to actually park your economic energy and value. And so why would you sell the best asset for the worst asset? Or why would you sell the best asset for the second or third or fourth best asset? Unless it was something you wanted to do specifically around lifestyle. But in terms of value creation and building wealth and prosperity for yourself over the long term and your kids and your family, Bitcoin is quickly shaping up to become a multi-generational asset that once you've got a hold of it, you never want to let go of it. And so, any pullbacks in price is an absolute godsend when you understand Bitcoin, because you just simply see it as an opportunity to buy more. And so, I certainly don't sweat when the price of Bitcoin drops. I didn't sweat it when it happened to me the first time, and I certainly don't sweat it now when I buy it now, because I just know what this is about and the way that it is imposing a new set of monetary standards and rules on the financial system. And so the first thing to realize, am I too late to Bitcoin? You're never too late to Bitcoin. And the reason for that is because Bitcoin is mathematically engineered to always go up and to the right over the long term when priced in inflationary currencies such as the Australian dollar, the US dollar, etc., etc. And so for that reason, it doesn't matter whether you get involved today or tomorrow or next month or next year, you're never going to be too late. Now, Is it better to get involved today than it is to get involved tomorrow or to get involved next week? Absolutely, because the longer you leave it getting involved into Bitcoin, the more it's likely to actually cost you. And so this is why I always sort of encourage people to, if you already got a rough or a broad grasp on what this is about and what it represents, then the next step is to just get involved at any level that you feel comfortable with. And if that's $500, go for it. If it's $5,000, go for it. If it's 500,000, go for it. The reality is you just have to get involved, because once you get into Bitcoin and you actually cross the chasm, you make that first step of actually making your first investment into Bitcoin, and then securing that digital gold, that Bitcoin onto your own private wallet. You've taken the first steps to being truly financially sovereign, and from there you're going to want to learn more. Once you have skin in the game, once you are on board in the network, you are going to want to learn more. And the more you learn, the more you're going to want to put into Bitcoin, because you just realize that there's no better place to park your economic energy and value for the long term. And so it's never too late to buy Bitcoin. You also have to understand that the reason why Bitcoin is designed to go up and to the right forever when priced in fiat currency is because it is the world's first truly finite fixed supply monetary instrument. Now people say, oh, gold is fixed supply, but that's not true. Gold has an inflation rate of around about 2%. And even though gold is a great store of value over the long term and has been for some 5,000 years, and many of the central banks around the world, they continue to buy and store and hoard gold, there are lots of challenges with gold, not the least of which is portability, being able to secure it, being able to verify it, being able to, portability, so transportation. There are issues with it, not to mention the performance of gold can be a little sluggish, even though it beats the daylights out of dollars over the long term. It can be a little sluggish at times, and people can get a little frustrated with it, but you just have to constantly zoom out with gold and look at it over a 10, 20, 30 year time horizon. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is very dynamic, because it doesn't matter what time horizon you take, provided that it's longer than 4 years, because Bitcoin historically functions in a 4-year what's known as a halving cycle. Again, topic for another video, but just know that every 4 years the Bitcoin amount of supply that gets issued to the market essentially gets cut in half, which basically means that there's less available, which essentially creates more scarcity and drives up the price. And so, Bitcoin is mathematically engineered to continually go up forever, simply because it is the scarcest, most finite monetary instrument that exists on Earth. And so when you realize that, you realize that it's never too late to buy Bitcoin, because it's going to keep going up forever when priced in the dollar. And so, because what happens with dollars is that the more inflation that is created through money printing, government spending, monetary expansion, currency debasement, quantitative easing, there are all of these different terms that are used to justify what they call government spending, but it's really, it's just money printing, it's just monetary expansion that the government and central bank is able to do without any checks and balances. You and I don't vote for them to issue more currency, they just do it, and we have to pay for it through inflation. And so, having said that, there are people in society, usually the top 5%, who benefit greatly from this system of theft known as inflation, because when they issue more currency into circulation, that currency finds its way down this value chain of assets. So currency is always looking for a place to park itself. It's always looking for a place to find a home, and generally the first place that it gravitates to is real estate, and that's because we've turned real estate from being a utility, as it was, up until around about the 1960s and 70s. It's now considered a store of value, and government policies came out that really helped to amplify that. And so we developed this love affair with real estate as a store of value, and then the whole banking system got on board, and different tax incentives, etc. And it's created this artificially monetized value system known as property and real estate that once upon a time was actually a utility and wasn't necessarily a wealth creation mechanism for every man and his dog. And so that's really important to understand as well, because we have to understand that the actual utility value of real estate, the true value of real estate, is far below the prices that it fetches. And so there's a big difference between price and value. And people are going to soon realize this, and this is why I say that Bitcoin is imposing a new set of rules onto the financial system, and it doesn't care what you or I think about it, it's going to do it anyway. And it's just simply a case of when you and I and the next person actually chooses to realize this and jump on board. And even wealthy people who have done very, very well in this inflationary environment that we're in, and the price of their real estate has doubled and tripled and they've made incredible wealth, even those people still like to create more wealth, and they're going to realize, because of this new set of imposed rules that Bitcoin is placing on the financial system, they're going to realize, well, if I've got an asset that's performing at X, but Bitcoin is doing X times 5, then that's something that I want to be involved in. And so even wealth in the system, people who are extremely wealthy are going to start transferring a significant amount of their value over to Bitcoin, because it'll just be something that can no longer be ignored. And so this is, in a nutshell, why it's not too late to buy Bitcoin. We have to also understand that we're only at the beginning when it comes to the adoption curve. And there's a thing with adoption of new technologies known as Metcalfe's law, which essentially stipulates that the value of a network is in line with its rate of adoption. And so when we consider where Bitcoin is on the adoption curve, it's good to create a frame of reference that, in relation to a technology that we've all kind of grown up with over the last 25, 30 years, and that of course is the internet. And to just consider that in 1999, we were on the eve or the verge of the great internet boom that produced companies such as not Apple, but Google, Amazon, Facebook, and the like. And we had no idea at that time that a functionality such as email would become a ubiquitous form of communication throughout society. It kind of seemed quite abstract and weird, and we just all wanted to continue using our fax machines, not realizing that we were on the dawn of this mass adoption phase, and the technology of the internet, just becoming a part of our lives. And then online shopping, and you'll recall that the first time you tried to put your credit card into a PayPal or a system online and not feeling all that comfortable with it, and the idea of doing all your shopping online when we had department stores, that just seemed absolutely crazy, and no one's ever going to do that because they want to go and actually shop somewhere. But this is what happened, and we had this transformation of the way we communicate and the way that we do commerce, and this is what's happening with the monetary system now. And Bitcoin is on the cusp of this new revolution of digital, or the transformation of digital value that is about to take place. And so you were early. You're always very early to Bitcoin, but now in particular, you're very early in the sense that mass adoption hasn't yet taken place. Something like 95 to 98% of the world still aren't involved in Bitcoin. We've got Wall Street as of January last year, who are now have been buying Bitcoin and is one of the largest holders of Bitcoin. But the reality is that was always going to happen. But the good news is they still only own something like 5% of the supply, I believe. But essentially, Bitcoin now has these synthetic derivative paper issuances of Bitcoin known as ETFs, exchange traded funds, which enables financial planning planners to sell to their clients exposure to Bitcoin, and the value number go up technology that it is, whilst the rest of us who really want to understand what Bitcoin is and become sovereign, we can go in and buy the real thing and actually store that value in our own private custody. And so Wall Street's on board. It's going to become very mainstream soon, where financial planners are going to be forced to adopt Bitcoin and recommend it to their clients very soon. They just won't be able to ignore it. You've got the US government now posturing to set up their strategic Bitcoin reserve. Senator Cynthia Lummis out of Wyoming, who's heading up the chair for the Senate Banking Committee, she's all on board with that. Has been tweeting about that feverishly over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks or so. So expect an announcement very soon that the US government is going to start setting up their own strategic reserve. And I reckon other governments and institutions around the world are going to, even if they're reluctant at first, they're going to be forced to follow suit, because we are at the end of a 50-year monetary experiment when we consider the fiat currency and the severing of the gold standard. Our dollars are no longer backed by anything. We have a debt-based system that really the only thing that keeps it afloat is the fact that they keep printing and creating more currency and more debt to support the amount of collateral that's in the system. Otherwise, the whole system would crumble. So Bitcoin is a life raft escape from all of this, and I just encourage you to learn more about it. You are early. It's not too late to buy Bitcoin. You've got to learn about it, but I would encourage you to get on board and then do all your learning. Once you're just comfortable that, hey, this makes sense, do all your learning once you're already starting to engage in the market with Bitcoin. And it's not something that you get involved to sell. And so when people think about, am I too late to buy, they're typically coming from the mindset, oh, what's the price going to be in 6 or 12 months? And what if it drops 5 or 10 or 20 or even 30%? When you understand Bitcoin, you realize that that's a gift, and that's simply an opportunity for you to buy more. And this is why we always recommend dollar cost averaging in, to just bring your average entry point down. I'm going to leave it there. This video has gone on a little, but I hope you got some value from that. It's something I'm really passionate about sharing and talking about, because it's, I believe that just a fundamental thing that people need to know about, who really care about their financial future and who can see the problems manifesting in their own life and family members and even society, but they can't quite put their finger on what's causing those problems and how Bitcoin goes about solving it. So that's what I'm here to help you understand, and I hope you got some value. I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, share, leave a comment if you want me to elaborate on anything you got from this video. And other than that, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. This is Zane signing out. Bye for now.